Hi Golden Eagles. Today I'm in downtown Hattiesburg at Rare Design, and I'm visiting with Rodney Richardson, owner of Rare. Now if you don't know Rodney's name or you don't know Rare Design, you certainly know his work. If you've ever been to an NFL game or an NBA contest or a NASCAR race, you can look down on the field or on the court and there's a good chance that Rodney's designed the logo that you're looking at. But that's only part of the reason why I'm here. Rodney's a Southern Miss alum who's had a key role in the development of the Eagle logo that we use for our athletic programs. And so Rodney knows not only the storytelling, but the Southern Miss story very well. So we're going to talk to Rodney a little bit about his story, a little bit about Southern Miss's story. So I really hope you enjoy our conversation. So thank you for taking the time to talk to us today, Rodney. I appreciate your willingness to do this with us.
Absolutely.
So for people that aren't necessarily familiar with you or familiar with Rare Design, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about what you do.
Okay, Rodney Richardson. I have Rare Design here in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, and it's been a little bit of a journey growing up in South Mississippi, going to school at Southern Miss, and then moving away for a little while. And like a lot of kids, I think, whenever we graduate and we're ready to hit the big world out there, and we say, man, I'm out of here and I'm never coming back. And I got a wonderful opportunity to move out to the Northwest and work at Nike, and you know, we weren't gone more than a few years. My wife is also from South Mississippi, and we started to realize and recognize how much we missed this place, how much we missed being a part of here. And you know, I always believed I would start a shop, so let's go back to Hattiesburg, let's go back to this place that we love, and we'll start Rare and see how it goes.
Well, and part of the reason that you love Hattiesburg now is Southern Miss.
Absolutely.
Tell us about your Southern Miss experience.
Absolutely. Well, the amount of encouragement and people that were willing to continue to kind of pour into me, even as I was going through a season where I certainly didn't deserve it, and you know, it was that kind of care and that kind of concern that did help me come back. And through that student design position in what was then called the printing center, it helped shape me. I mean, it really did. It showed me so many things that I didn't realize at the time. But as I moved on into my professional career and faced other challenges, I looked back. I could look back on those moments. I could look back on those things that people would share with me, whether it was their frustrations or their excitement at achieving whatever kind of success or whatever the case might be, and learn from those things and be encouraged by those things and see how all of that had gone into shaping me, and then how that was going to then allow me and guide me in how I shaped my business. It's not about just drawing logos. It's not about doing, you know, great graphics. It's about telling stories and knowing your story and being able to tell that, and that resonates with these teams. They have a story to tell. They have a connection to make with their fan bases, with their cities and their regions. And so as I came back and started Rare in 1999, I started looking for those opportunities, guys and girls that I was friends with, had relationships with, as they moved on and into different positions around the country, and you know, the trust had built through those relationships as we slowly started to get opportunities to work with teams. You know, I'm one of the first professional identity that we got to do as Rare was with Houston Texans, with Houston getting an NFL team back and working with the Texans on the development of that brand, and then getting back into the NBA world and getting to work with the Grizzlies. And since then, it's built, and we've gotten to have a lot of fun, and we've worked in either branded or rebranded, like I said, the Memphis Grizzlies, New Orleans Pelicans, Atlanta Hawks, Charlotte Hornets, Sacramento Kings, most recently the Minnesota Timberwolves.
So you mentioned storytelling, and one of the stories that I've heard you tell is that first experience in Memphis with your first opportunity with an NBA team, I guess, on your own with Rare Design. So tell me a little, tell that story.
All right. So I'll back up because there's a story that leads into that story, and I'll tell this one. So I was traveling with a guy when I was at Nike. I was traveling with a guy who was my sports marketing partner, and this guy's name is Martin Newton. And if you don't recognize that name, Martin's dad was legendary coach, athletic director, C.M. Newton at the University of Alabama, Kentucky, first president of USA basketball, and just tremendous icon in the world of sports. Well, Martin and I were traveling to New York, so and we were going to meet with the league, going to meet with the NBA, and so we were kind of having a little fun at our own expense with that, saying, here you've got this company that's one of the biggest in sports, going to meet with the premier league in the world in basketball, sending us to New York of all places, this redneck from Mississippi and this hillbilly from Kentucky. Like, what are these people thinking, and just kind of having fun with that. And then Martin got really serious and he said, look, let me tell you something. He said, we can joke about this, you and I can joke about this all we want. He said, but don't ever try to change who you are. He said, remember the values and the truths that you've been taught. He said, it's a blessing for us to be from this place that we're from because of those values, because of those character traits that we've been taught. And he said, look, you're gonna walk into a room one day, and he said, a couple of things are gonna happen. One, you're gonna open your mouth and people are gonna hear your accent and they're gonna think you're an idiot, and they can't hide it on their face. You're gonna see it. And that's true. And then he said another thing, he said, you're gonna be in a meeting one day and somebody's gonna look at you and they're gonna hear you and they're gonna look at somebody next to them and they're gonna say, why in the hell are we talking to somebody from Mississippi? And he said, how are you going to answer that? He said, that's where those values and that character trait and those traits and those things have to come out. When you're from a place in the world that historically is one of the poorest and it's still politically correct to put us down sometimes, like it's okay to pick on them, these stereotypes that exist, and you either give in to those things and you believe them and you sort of become them, or you overcome them. And when you look at the things that have come from this place in the world, when you look at the innovations and the creations and the inspirations, the art, the flavors, the textures, the sounds, so many wonderful things that have come from this place in the world, then you listen to the stories, you find the stories of the people that have done that, you see this grit and determination and ingenuity that they just did it and they overcame and they were fueled by it. So I thought about all that and then started building Rare based on that, and we would talk about that internally. And I was presenting the Grizzlies identity one day, and it was our first meeting with Michael Heisley, who was the owner at the time of the team, and I'm in there and I'm ready and very nervous, first meeting with the owner, and he comes in and they all come in and we start talking and I start talking and he says, wait. He said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Hattiesburg, Mississippi, about 5 hours down the road. And he looks at the guy next to him and he looks back at me and he looked at the guy next to him and he goes, why in the hell are we working with somebody from Mississippi? And I thought, wow, I can't believe somebody really asked that question. I never believed that was going to happen, yet here it is, and it has. But I was excited and I came back and I told him why. I told him about that perseverance and that grit that we're going to bring to everything we do, and we're going to dig down and we're going to find this story of who you are and we're going to bring it to life in the right way. And we talked about that for a minute and he said, okay, let's go. But when I look back on those experiences when I was in school, even when I was that knucklehead student, but I had these instructors, I had these fellow students, I had people that were around me that were encouraging and wouldn't allow me to quit when I wanted to, or would kind of, be honest and be real and get in my face and go, quit being a knucklehead, man. You're messing this up. Like, let's go and do this. And, it's that kind of thing that I think makes this place so very special, that people are willing to pour that kind of time into you and spend that time with you and grow together. And we still keep in touch, a lot of us. And that's fun, and it's deep and it's real. And it's a huge part of who we are.
So I want to talk a little bit about the Southern Miss story,
Yeah.
and because grit certainly is a defining characteristic of that story, and you can't really separate Southern Miss from the place
Right.
of South Mississippi.
Absolutely.
And as somebody who knows the Southern Miss story very well, talk a little bit about the Southern Miss story.
That's been one of the most exciting projects for me because it's one of the closest, one of the nearest and dearest, and because it's part of me, it's part of who I am. I've experienced it. It's not just the research of going and learning. Of course, there's talking to the administrative staff and coaches and people within the university and where it is now, where it is, the vision moving forward. But I know what this place is about because I've experienced it. I've been a part of it. I've learned from it. I've grown from it, and to be able to help bring that story to life is tremendous. And so it is that grit and that determination and that ingenuity that we knew had to come out through this identity. You know, there are a lot of marks, and especially in the athletic world, where it's all about talons and claws and teeth and snarling and all that. And that's not who we are. That's not the personality here. That's why our identity is one of just greater intensity, and that intensity of focus and that determination of achievement and for success, and trying to convey those things through that, because that is the grit that we have and that we want to bring to life. And that is the fear that we can instill as sometimes the perennial underdog. And it's like, fine, think that. Just like Martin told me, let them think that. Because by the time they realize that they're wrong, you've already won. That's so true of Southern Miss. That's so true of who we are, how people want to underestimate us, whether it's our place, our university, our athletic teams, whatever the case is. But I know the heart and soul of the people here. I know the heart and soul of the people that invest their lives here to teach the students and to coach these athletes and to lead this university. And I know how deep that runs, and that had to be conveyed through this identity. If you hear coaches, you hear staff as they come through over the years, if you've been around long enough to hear them come through, when they arrive, they know what they're coming into. They know the heritage of this place. And that's what I experience. I think when I talk to athletes, when I talk to coaches, when I talk to administrators and staff around the university now, there's that expectation that they know there's encouragement, but there's also anticipation that you are going to become the embodiment of this as well. And I think that's why we see the success that we see, academically, athletically, people just going out into life, whatever their role is that they fulfill, like that you see that kind of spirit, that Southern Miss spirit, that Golden Eagle spirit. You see that carry them through. That is the essence of our story. There's a greater intensity with this mark now, even with a little more of the black coming back in, and how that gets to the strength of who we are. And a little bit of that fear that we can instill from the athletic side of things, the combat side of things, in the folks that we're facing. Do not underestimate us. Be careful of that. And I know that as a university that's what we want all our students that are going out there. We want all our graduates that are going out there is to take on the world with that kind of tenacity.
Well, let's talk about today, your business today.
Yeah.
And you've worked with some of the most familiar sports, professional sports leagues and teams in the country. And so tell us a little bit about that experience and what you're doing today.
We got a few things going on. We've got a lot going on in the athletic world, getting into some sports that we haven't been terribly deeply involved in, and so that's exciting for us. Continuing our work with the NBA, even as that world expands, a lot of fun. They announced earlier this summer that they've partnered with 2K to do this online gaming league, the first professional sport to go out and do professional gaming as part of their sport, and getting to work with the league on that, and getting to work with NASCAR and getting to work with local businesses and industries. I love the fact that what storytelling does for us is that we get to work with people from a lot of different areas, and if they're passionate about it, we can be passionate about it and helping them find those stories and bring them to life. So the athletic stuff is certainly fun. People get fired up about that, and there's a good bit more of that coming.
Anything else that you want to tell the Southern Miss people out there?
Absolutely, man. I think that just I hope that what they see as when they look at our university and they look at who we are, that they can be encouraged by that, by that grit, have that determination, live that, own that about who we are, and live that out.
Thank you, Rodney, for taking the time to talk to us and sharing your Southern Miss story. And as always, Southern Miss,
to the top.